on whose side. So, these issues are all over the place. So that's one of the things. Grandparents' rights. I mean, if they can't get to their grandchildren, or they're not speaking to them, or they're your son-in-law won't let you speak to the kids. It's a very, very big problem. There's no panacea or cure-all answer here, but we certainly are aware of it. It's something that people can talk about. It's something that we'll have advice of certain ways to handle things. But again, it's casualty. I don't want to use of war, but it's a casualty of the divorce process that happens with some regularity.
Mm. Well, I was also going to ask you about men versus women. Do you have more women or more men on this site at this point?
Well, it's funny because it's at first one would think it'd be more women, but all of a sudden we got a flurry of men that came on. This week, I don't know if you know this, but the new year starts. The month of January is probably the most extreme month in terms of divorce filing.
No, see, I'm getting an education, Jeff, because I don't know anything about divorce. I mean, I've never really had anyone. I had one uncle that got a divorce when I was in high school, and it was like a big scandal because no one was divorced. Now I know a lot of people who are divorced, but personally in my family, it's never happened. So, I'm learning. I'm getting an education.
Well, thankfully, you're getting an education without not having to have experienced it. I've gotten an education by experiencing it, unfortunately.
Right.
Look, it goes to the point. No one when you've never gotten divorced, you don't know anything, and you just have no idea what's around the corner. You have no idea what's coming at you, and then recognize this. It's the business world when you make decisions. Here, you have to make decisions about your life when your emotional state is completely unbalanced, where you have no clear judgment, where you feel like you're living in a cloud, scared, and you're relying on advice from someone you're paying to oversee the case, but you don't have the ability to really step back and make sound judgments because you're not sound of mind. So that really is such a disempowered state of being that it's actually scary. And as a result, a lot of people are terribly affected by this.
So what would you think is are some of the biggest challenges that people are not aware of?
Well, again, it depends on subjectively your issues. We talked about the children earlier. Finances is obviously a very major issue. The allocation of assets or, the entitlements in terms of support or alimony. There's just, selling the home, keeping the home, who gets what. There's just all these things. It's so disrupting, this change in life, and, the splitting up of things that, the challenges vary by the different extremes of the individuals. There's no set answer, but the one thing that is sound across the board in terms of the challenge, life is changing. And this type of change in life is extremely emotional, and depending on, obviously, the duration of marriage and whether they're children or not, and the financial issues that are associated with it, it really, really affects people. I mean, I've seen people in such bad shape that are, I won't use the word dysfunctional, but to a certain degree are. And I would tell you candidly, in my case, for 5 years, I was very, very severely affected. And I use the term feel like living in a fog. I went to work every day. I functioned every day. But I felt like I was living in a fog, really in a very bad place for a very long period of time.
Well, you hear so many stories. You hear the story of the man who meets the second wife, and the other one is left destitute, and he starts a whole second family, and the first family is neglected. And then you hear the one where the wife gets everything, and the man has nothing, has got to live in a little single room somewhere because all his money is going to the other family. I mean, there are such large, divisive parts to this that I would think, I just think it's amazing that I'm really fascinated by the fact that you're going to rate attorneys. I think that is amazing.
Well, what that will do, it will acknowledge those that deserve to be acknowledged, and it will create accountability for those that should be accounted for. And we've come up with 16 questions that are kind of important to know to ask, but you wouldn't know to ask them because you never went through this. And, a couple of examples are, this one's kind of simple, but does your attorney return your phone call or email within 24 hours? Yes, no. when your attorney gives you a piece of advice or suggests a specific strategy, how effective has that piece of advice been? 1 to 10, 10 being the best. Questions like that are very telling, and we have 16 of them, and what that will do is, really bring to the surface where, people are getting really sound advice or advice that's not as great as it should be.
So is this going to cover all 50 states, or are you going to go outside of the country? How is that going to work?
Well, again, we're the first community, so it's kind of interesting to see what happens. We're getting people from all over the country that are coming on, becoming members, all different states. Obviously, there are certain states that are, there are more people than others. Again, it's at the very incipient stages. But we also got some people internationally that have come at us because, this issue, divorce, is not just a domestic issue. It's an international problem. And there are many cases I've been exposed to where, you have a couple here where the woman's from Japan, the family's there and wants to take the child to Japan. What's the jurisdiction? Is the divorce in New York or is it in Japan? And the issues associated with that. So the issue of divorce is such a humongous thing, and it is international. If I have my my dream of where we're going, we become the international platform, around the world down the road as we scale this thing. And clearly we're starting here in the United States, and we're building it, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what's next for DivorceForce, and what you just mentioned. Madonna's going through that right now with her ex, although they're already divorced, but there's still a child custody situation. And uh, Kelly, I can't think of her last name, Rutherford. She cannot bring her kids to the United States anymore, even though she was married here and divorced here. The Monaco courts are saying if you want to see them, you've got to go over there. And so it's really interesting when you talk about different cultures and different nationalities and so forth. It does encompass a lot.
I would actually use a different word than interesting. I would say scary. And
well, it's scary. It is.
It really is scary. And the thing that we all don't even realize, which is we do realize, is that the person that dictates that outcome is a judge. And a judge is a human being. And a judge has their own viewpoints and biases. And a judge can be influenced by a whole bunch of different things. We don't even kind of think about that when we go through this. It doesn't really hit you until you become knowledgeable. But I would, you talk about something that people should be really conscious of. That's something really to be conscious of.
That's true. And of course, having spent some time in courtrooms, not for this, but for other things, I can say it's always amazing to me how judges rule and what they do. So I guess that's correct. Well, we only have a couple minutes left, and I do want to make sure people know that if they want to find more information about this, they go to DivorceForce.com. Is there anything that you want to bring up that I have not mentioned at this point, Jeffrey?
Well, look, we covered a lot of territory. There's a lot more that could be said. I would advise, or I would ask that anyone that is obviously affected by this or considering getting divorced, they can come to the site. One of the features we have becoming a member is a feature called incognito. And because divorce is such a sensitive subject, people don't necessarily want to be known that they're doing research or conversing with other people. We've enabled our members to go on and become a member without disclosing who they are, and we generate a different email account, some brand new email account, so they don't get a regular email, so that they can go in and engage with people and learn and speak. And that's a very important thing because of the sensitivity of divorce. So just wanted to go away, let people know that. And if anyone ever wants to reach out to me, I'm Jeff at DivorceForce.com. I'll be more than glad to try to help people because that's what I love to do. And, we're really a community about helping and making a big difference. And that's what it's all about.
Well, I want to thank you, Jeff, for being with us today. You've opened our eyes to a lot of things that most people don't even think about. And if they are in a stage of divorce or considering divorce, it's something they should certainly look into before they do anything. So welcome advice today. Very, very much so. So again, my guest has been Jeff Meshel, and you can reach him at jeff@DivorceForce.com. Thanks for being with us.
Truly my pleasure.